Good evening, everybody. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming tonight and coming out, and especially in the busy season of December. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. My name is Lauren Kloss. I'm the caseworker for Clarkston Area Youth Assistance. For those of you who are not familiar with Youth Assistance, we are a county-wide prevention program here in Oakland County, all about strengthening youth and families through community involvement. We have a lot of services and programs that we offer families throughout the county. Each office is located in every school district throughout the county, so we are obviously here for Clarkston area. We have casework services, we have family education programs, which includes tonight, as well as scholarship programs to help pay for extracurriculars for kids or camp. We have a youth recognition ceremony, pinwheels for prevention, mentoring program, and homework club program too. So we do a lot for kids and families in our community. Tonight, we are happy to present part one of our three-part series on resiliency and building resilience in kids and teens. So tonight is the parent portion, raising resilient kids and teens. So thank you again for being here. We have Diana Jennings here with us from Perspectives Counseling Centers. And she is a therapist there. She's clinical director. She wears multiple hats and is just an amazing person, has done trainings for professionals, and it does wonderful things with kids and teens in the practice there too. So without further ado, here is Diana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to tell you, I am not used to using a microphone. I'm not used to standing right here and talking. I'm used to stepping out, so it's going to be great for you guys, not so great for the recording, but we'll try to make it work. So again, I'm Diana Jennings. I'm from Perspectives Counseling Centers. I'm the clinical director there. I'm also the clinical director at two other companies in Southeast Michigan, Heron Ridge Associates and Oakland Psychological Clinic. So anywhere in the Southeast Michigan area that you guys might live or might know somebody or need services, we've probably got you covered. You can take some pamphlets out front. I've got pamphlets for all three companies and my business card as well. At all of the counseling centers, we cover the full range of mental health services for kids as young as 4 and all the way up through older adults. And like I said, the full range of mental health services, so covering ADHD, anxiety, depression, marital counseling, couples counseling, oppositional defiant disorder, pretty much eating disorders, pretty much everything that you can think of that is under mental health services. At the end of this, there's going to be a chance for question and answer, and I will welcome any questions about the material that I'm providing or anything else about the services that we provide at any of our companies or anything else about what I do. As she mentioned, I am a therapist myself. I do see and treat children, adolescents, and adults. And specializing in anxiety and eating disorders. I utilize play therapy with some of my clients that warrant it. I also do SAN play therapy too. And I use cognitive behavioral therapy, all of the therapies that are appropriate for those populations. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So we are here working on raising resilient kids and teens. And actually, I do have a question for you guys. So I like to know my audience. Let me try to move this a little bit. All right. Can you raise your hand if you have a child that is kindergarten to 5th grade, so an elementary school age? Okay, all right, that's almost the majority. Okay, how about from 6th grade to 8th grade? Oh, well, goodness, all right, very nice. And anybody from 9th to 12th? Okay, all right, perfect. Did I miss anybody? Anybody contemplating having children? Okay, in college? Okay, very good. I forgot about that. Raise your hand if you have a child in college. Okay, all right, wonderful. Very good. So I will try to keep that in mind too as I'm presenting. A lot of this, you know what? I was going to say a lot of this is beneficial for elementary school, middle school, not true. Even if you have a college student, even if you have an adult child, having these concepts in mind, understanding resiliency, understanding parenting, that you still do, right, even when they're out of the house, is going to be important. So I think you're going to be able to take away something that you can use. And hopefully you're going to return for the second and the third series and maybe have your child come. I want to say too, excellent if you bring your children. It's going to be very attractive for a lot of it. If you don't want to, if you're dragging them and they're still in the parking lot and they won't come in, that's fine too, because you'll be able to, pick up a lot of information. So it's not just strictly for kids from the second and the third section. So tonight, the agenda is defining resiliency so that we all know what we're talking about. Factors that affect resiliency, 9 ways to promote resiliency, and like I said at the end, we'll have time for question and answer. So defining resiliency. Again, very important that we understand what it is that we're talking about and what it is not, okay? So dictionary definition of resiliency: the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, or toughness, simply toughness. I think that's an interesting, gives you a good picture too of what resiliency is. But let's break it down into kind of more mental health terms. So resiliency is the ability to engage with a challenge, risk, or impediment, okay, and come out the other side with some measure of success. So something that you don't hear there is that, resiliency is never having a problem with something, or, what do you want to say, like conquering, the challenge. It doesn't say that. It's coming out the other side with some measure of success. Not a great deal of success, not ultimate success, but with some measure of it. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're talking about resiliency. It's a psychological principle blending these 4 items: optimism, flexibility, problem solving, and motivation. Now, as we go along, you're going to notice all sorts of other concepts too and words that I include in this, but those 4 things are very key: optimism, flexibility, and I'll explain what we mean by that, problem solving, and motivation. Anybody here think their child could use some more of one of those 4 things? I see one smile. I see lots of smiles. Okay, cool. You're in the right place. All right. What is it not? Resilience is not automatic. Okay? It is not, if you're looking at your child that maybe has some struggles, don't assume that, they should know this. All right, so from now on, anytime that thought comes into your mind, you're going to think of a yellow flag and go, now what did Diana Jennings say? Oh, that's right, it's not automatic. There's no, they should know this. I kind of feel too that is a message to kind of go beyond resiliency. Past generations thought parenting and growing up and learning skills was much more automatic, and that kids always know these things. You don't really have to teach these things. You don't have to teach how to be, a child, or how to gain skills. Now we know differently, and we know how much a parent is important in that teaching. Okay, so resilience is not automatic, but is instead a learned behavior that becomes internalized and applied during stressful times. So the cool thing is that your kids can learn it. And they can learn it from you, they can learn it from other places too, but it is a learned behavior. Oh, I want to say too, if you have a very, very pressing question that can't wait for the end, please put your hand up. I don't mind at all questions in the middle of it. I'm that kind of person of, but I've got one right now. I can't wait until the end. So I'll just look for your hands up if you have one. So family is undoubtedly the most important system affecting child resiliency. All right, who just felt a huge weight on their shoulders? I could go on about, parenting in general and, how you should address that weight or whether you should feel it or not, or, but we've taken on an important role as a parent. It is our job to assist, help, shape, model, empower, all of those wonderful words, our children, okay? And some children come out really pretty easy. Raise your hand if you have a really easy child. Right? One of a couple, maybe, right? Yeah. So this book, Raising Resilient Children, I suggest everybody gets it. I know it's in the basket that's for a raffle. Raising Resilient Children by Robert Brooks and Sam Goldstein. They list just 3 different kinds of children in here, and one of them is the easy child. If you get that child first, which they often come out first. Yeah, okay, I see the nods. Often, not always, often. Sometimes that last child comes out just super easy because they're like, the road has been paved, right? If you get that child first, you're like, parenting is so simple. I got this, I'm amazing, I just tell them to do something that they've already done it before I even had to tell them, yeah. And then you get that next child, and, stereotypically that middle child, or the second child if you only have 2, doesn't come out quite as easy, tends to have more challenges. And, I have parents that come to me and they say, but I raised them both the same way. Why is that one different? Okay, here's the secret. Because you raised them both the same way. No. But you can't expect them to be the same person just because you raised them and they came from you, and, that'd be great, but it doesn't always work that way. They're individuals and they come with different temperaments. Even if, you have a certain temperament, they may be exactly like you, they may be different, we never know. So the point is that often, you're going to have to parent 2 ways if you have 2 kids, and 3 ways if you have 3 kids, and so on and so forth. I love that I'm seeing the nods. We're on the same page. Okay. All right. Which, then makes that really challenging. But that's why they write books. And again, if you didn't see that one, this is a really good one. So some of the things that are very helpful. We're going to start with open communication. What does that mean? The goal is that the child feels like they can come to you with any information, anything that they want to share, good stuff, bad stuff, difficult stuff, and that you are present, you're listening, you're available. Doesn't have to be 24/7, right? You still get a life, but that there is also an exchange of communication too, so that you share stuff with them, they share stuff with you. I don't mean that you share your business, but that you communicate. Oh, I'm listening to you, tell me about this, you ask questions, you're interested, you offer advice, that kind of thing. We'll go into that even a little bit more later. Pro-social, positive parenting, and authoritative parenting style. I'm going to go in reverse. So, authoritative parenting style. There are 3 different parenting styles. There's permissive, authoritative, and authoritarian. You want to be right in the middle, okay? Authoritative is right in the middle. So permissive, think about those parents or those families that have no rules. No boundaries. Kid, can do whatever they want to do. Woo, that sounds great, right? But they also have no guidance then. They don't know where the line is between right and wrong. They're not directed in that sort of way. So that's permissive. Authoritarian is focused more on punishment, and maybe saying no a whole lot, and always just providing kind of a barrier, okay? Authoritative is more in line with positive parenting, and I wanted to give you some kind of guidelines on what positive parenting is. So positive parenting, couple things, very focused on the reason for behaviors, okay? So kid yells at you. So instead of, don't talk to me that way, go to your room, providing that punishment or that consequence immediately, it's much more of, let me understand why you're yelling at me, okay? And leading with that concept in your mind of, let me figure out why. You might first say, hey, why don't you take a minute? Why don't you take a little time out? And then we'll come back, and then I'm going to, as a parent, try to figure out why you yelled, okay? Being kind and firm is part of positive parenting too. I mentioned about having the set boundaries too, so clear guidelines of what is appropriate, what is expected. Also clear guidelines of consequences, so if you make this choice, this is what happens, okay? Gentle discipline, so again, not punitive, but still providing consequence, okay? Also focusing on that the consequence has something to do with the behavior, okay? So my favorite example is if the video game makes you so angry that you throw it or you yell or you can't get off of it easily, then we're not going to play it for the next hour, the next day, the next week, whatever is appropriate, okay? So it matches the behavior. So clear and consistent guidelines and expectations, and giving yourself too, as a parent, time to, this example says to chill out, but giving yourself time to be in the right mindset to do appropriate positive parenting, so providing consequences while you are a little bit more relaxed. So if both your child and you have become, explosive, that you both give yourself a time out, calm down, and then do your parenting. So any questions right now on that positive parenting? I know there was a lot of information there that I gave you that's not written down, so. Okay. So I mentioned those 4 categories before. So let's go a little deeper into what that looks like. So teaching those resiliency skills. I'm going to start with optimism first. So using helpful phrases that provide hope, okay? This example, I know it looks bad now, but you'll get through this. Using, well, gosh, I know you didn't get that right now. Do you think if you practice it? I think if you practice it, you might get better. It didn't work out for you this time. I know, and that must have been tough, but I bet next time will be different, okay? And modeling, how do we model optimism in everyday activities? So a huge part of teaching your children these skills is about modeling too, okay? So communicating, I was going to say it's not lecturing, but when you're communicating with your child, it doesn't have to be lecture, it can be communication, but modeling is important too. So if think about something that doesn't go right in your world. Let's say you burned dinner or you dropped dinner on the floor. So how can you model, instead of, getting angry or upset or, that ruined the whole day, how can you model optimism? Wow, well, you know what? That gives us a chance to have that frozen pizza in the freezer. Help me clean up and we'll get that going. So find those times in your day to model how you are being optimistic about something. Maybe something big, I didn't get that job that I wanted to get. And you share that, with your child and say, but you know what, I'm going to still keep on applying. I know something is right around the corner for me. Maybe this gives me an opportunity to do something different that, I never thought of. Okay? Your child sees you being optimistic, you're modeling that for them, they're going to pick those skills up. Flexibility and problem solving. So I mentioned I was going to talk about flexibility. So this is emotional flexibility and flexibility of the mind, if you will, the ability to shift and change easily, okay? So helpful phrases that promote positive self-talk and reframing. What can you learn from this so it doesn't happen next time? Let me define also what we're talking about by positive self-talk. So self-talk is the stuff that goes through our heads that we tell ourselves, okay? So here's an example of negative self-talk. I'm driving and I'm parking and I get out and I've parked crooked and I'm over the line and I say to myself, you're so stupid. How can you do that? You do that every single time. You have no skills. Or if I'm looking in the mirror and I'm thinking, that's the worst outfit you could ever pick. You look horrible. That's negative self-talk, okay? When people come to therapy, we often talk about what's going on in your head. What do you tell yourself? What kind of messages do you tell yourself? And let's look at how many are positive, how many are negative, how many are helpful, and what happens to you, how you feel and how you behave after you have that self-talk, okay? Because what we say to ourselves affects how we feel and how we behave. So, promoting positive self-talk. Make sure when you are going into that test tomorrow, you tell yourself, what? You've got this. You can do this. You practiced. You know all of these answers. That's how you promote positive talk in that area. If a child is going into a birthday party, and even if they know the kids, did you guys know that can be a really terrifying situation for a kid, just entering a birthday party? There's something about when children see their friends or other children outside of school. It's a weird dynamic that goes on. Okay, I got a nod there. Very good. But so, and if you know that your child, they're a little bit anxious, or that's one of the things that makes them anxious, promote some self-talk there, Recognize that about 1 minute after you enter that party, you are going to feel relaxed. You're going to have no worries, okay? Anxiety doesn't last that long in those situations. You've got this, okay? So, also I have play What Would You Do If? So one of my favorite games to have parents do and families do. So you play What Would You Do If? And you've got to come up with scenarios that are kind of fantastical and then also are related to what your child might be going through. Okay? So you might introduce it with, I say fantastical, but maybe something that is easier for them to wrap their head around. So, what would you do if this is stranger danger? What would you do if you're walking home and a car pulls up and somebody asks if, you can help them find their lost dog, okay? What would you do then? Or what would you do if you walk into a party or you walk into a group and none of your friends are there? What would you do? What would you do, your high schoolers, your college students, what would you do if your best friend handed you drugs or handed you a drink and you wanted to say no? or you didn't know what to do? What would you do with? Okay? The goal, the parenting goal here is to practice that open communication. So kind of there are no wrong answers, right? So, share with me what would you do, and then let's talk about why. Because if kids are anything, they're very surprising, right, at times. And some of them might have just the most bizarre answers. Oh, well, I would take it from him and oh, goodness, and use the drugs. Okay, interesting. You might have wide-eyed surprise response, but ask that follow-up question. Tell me why you would do that. Don't have that knee-jerk reaction of, oh my gosh, are you serious? You wouldn't do that, right? Please tell me, understand why. Kids often have those reasons why and can explain it to you, and then that leads into a full discussion of, okay, well, let's talk about the consequences of those choices, all right? And that always leads to very interesting discussions. And then motivation, so helping kids find what they are good at. There is, again, in this book, there's a whole section about what the authors call islands of competence. So when kids are young, we like to introduce them to kind of everything. Oh, there I go again. Introduce them to everything. Lots of different activities. And hopefully we're doing that so that we can hone in on what they're good at and what they like. Awesome when those two things align, right? What they like and what they're good at. A little more challenging if they don't align, okay? And what to do if they truly want to turn away from those things that they're good at. But helping them find what they're good at and making sure that you're introducing them to those things and setting them up to be successful in that, okay? Motivation is also about encouraging goal setting. So breaking large goals into multiple small goals. So raise your hand if you have a child that when they have a big assignment at school, they wait until the last minute. There we go. Hands shot up. Okay. Raise your hand if you have one that already says, wait. Oh, no, raise your hand if you have a child that does it the first night that they get the assignment. You see, those kids are out there. Okay. Raise your hand. Yeah, one of each. Raise your hand if you have somebody that already does break it up into those smaller goals. Okay. All right. See, kids are different. Kids are all different. And hopefully we have those that are learning too. You know what? It is so much better for me to break it up into those smaller goals than to wait to the end. Now, think beyond school too. So things like your room, all right? Anybody else have a kid that has a disaster for a room? Yeah. And I go in sometimes and I clean it up because I feel like it. It's a disaster about 2 days later. It's incredible. I don't get stressed over it. It's whatever. But so one of the things about a room, though, is it's an enormous task. There's clothes on the floor. Those clothes have to go somewhere else. Do I have a hamper? Is the hamper full? Is it empty? Are they clean? Should I fold them back up? I don't know what to do with them. There's so many. I can't fit them into the drawer. I don't really want to open the closet because I use the closet for something other than hanging up clothes. And that's just the clothes. And then there's the bedding. I don't know if anybody else has a kid that has the bedding on the floor beside the bed, not on the bed. So that looks nice. And then toys, and then things. Who has a kid who has just things all over? Yeah, okay. They're eventually going to be scientists and engineers, okay? But right now it's just things and pieces, and oh, I was gonna make something with that, and oh, but that's really cool, and so breaking up that larger task. So you are going to lose that battle if you say, go and clean up that room right now, okay? That looks like an enormous task. That sounds like, go clean the house right now. Where would I start? which room, which, item, what do I do? That just sounds enormous. But if you say, all right, right now, go pick up all the towels and put those into this basket right here. Got it. That one's easier, okay? Go pick up the towels, put them in the basket, and then pick up the clothes and put those into this other hamper, okay? You can add on that second goal. And then later on today, after you take a break, then go pick up all of the trash and put it in this bag, because I'm using my experience. You got to give them that next step, okay? And what does trash look like too, right? Yeah. So breaking those up into small goals and then also being specific about them too, okay? How does that help with motivation? Because it's not such an enormous task now. It's doable, okay? And a doable task will make and help somebody be much more motivated. And practice finishing what is started. That might be a pretty large goal for some kids too, and those kids that, zip, zip, zip from one thing to another, but practice it. And again, this is a great time for modeling too, okay? We're gonna start something and we're going to practice finishing it. And we're going to talk about that out loud too. Okay, so, oh gosh, we already started this. Do we have time to finish it? Okay, maybe we don't have time to finish it right now, but we're gonna come back later on today and finish that task. Okay, we start it and then we finish it. That is the overall concept of motivation. So you wanna make sure that you're practicing that, you're modeling it, start it, and then finish it. It's a good one to use too for any activity that a kid starts, a sports club, group, whatever it might be. All right, let's make a plan. When we start it, we're gonna finish it. You might not like it, you might not like every part of it, but we're gonna finish it, okay? Why? Because when we start things, we finish them. And that's just a good plan, okay? And if you hate it, then you've got something to talk to me about when you come home every day. And I'll be excited to hear the 5 things that you hate about that group or that, sport, okay? All right, moving on to factors that promote resiliency. So these are the factors that are individual or internal to the child. Okay, emotional flexibility. So there's that flexibility word again. So emotional flexibility, being able to move from one emotion to another, but not in a, mood swing sort of way, but to be able to kind of shake off, disappointment, or move quickly from anger or sadness, dry your tears, and move on to something else. Okay, so the opposite of emotional flexibility is emotional rigidity. Every time that I do this, I get angry. That's an example of emotional rigidity. Emotional flexibility, maybe this time it will be a little different, or, maybe, it's still always a frustrating situation for me, but, I can be less frustrated this time. I can look at the positive side of it. Active lifestyle. So the more experiences, the more activities, the more that a child is exposed to things that are under the guise of active, the more likely they are to be able to be resilient. Okay, so think about if I'm raising a little bit of a couch potato, I am going to want to start to introduce some things that make them a little more active. And, that can be a full range of I sign them up for, a 4-season sport, or it can be we go for walks every day and we go to the playground, or we go to, community events on a regular basis. Okay. Emotional regulation. It's similar to emotional flexibility, but emotional regulation is regulating your mood. I am frustrated. I learn coping strategies to regulate my mood. one take-home piece. Our goal for our children is not and should not be, they will be happy always, right? Better is they will have appropriate emotions and be able to regulate them and handle them. Because there are many, many, many situations out there that shouldn't make us happy, right? It wouldn't be normal to be happy about every situation. So how do they regulate that mood? I'm sad about this, something sad happened. How do I manage that, okay? And am I able to move through sadness, anger, frustration appropriately? That's emotional regulation. Humor. I love instilling humor into my talks, into parenting, into children. Being able to see situations with some humor, being able to set aside sometimes those difficult emotions and smile about something. That's a very important skill, okay? Because life kind of goes on too, even when there's a frustrating or a sad or difficult happening, and you need to be able to access that part of you that makes you smile, okay? So those that internally have some humor, or if you have that in your family too, that's a positive factor. Autonomy, so a child that already knows about themselves as part of a family, but as their own individual, has responsibilities, has their own identity, okay? And empathy. So there are kids that, and adults that are more wired for empathy, and others that are less wired for empathy. Empathy is also something that you can learn and you can teach too. But if your child already has that ability, that is definitely a positive factor for resiliency. So those that are more related to social or family situations. So warm and supportive parents, parental harmony, pro-social bonding to a supportive adult. So think about at school, like a counselor, a teacher, a principal, a neighbor, another adult if you have a close friend that is almost like part of the family. So that's what we mean by a pro-social bonding to a supportive adult. Meaningful peer friendships, healthy sibling relationships. Social competence, that's a cool one too. So those kids that can handle social situations well, or can learn to handle social situations well. The ability to solicit help. So again, I'm going to talk about school. So you're at school and something goes wrong. Somebody shoves you into a locker, or you had an accommodation for your test and the teacher didn't give it to you. How do you solicit help? Does your kid go and find somebody to help? Or do they kind of sit back and go, all right? Parental supervision. So I mentioned about the authoritative parenting. So parental supervision, you kind of know where your kids are, and you know what they're doing, and you know about them, and you are, I hadn't done that in a while, and you are overall supervising, okay? And then effective parenting skills, which, attending these kinds of trainings, reading books, talking with other parents, and, kind of getting feedback from them, all ways to increase those effective parenting skills. And then some more social and family situations. Some that we have control over, some that we don't have as much control over. So being in a safe neighborhood, having access to high quality schools, community closeness, access to after school programs, a supportive extended family. So if you have actually those supports, for a variety of reasons, whether it's emotional support or, support coming over to take care of the family so that you can go and do something else. A valued social role, so having a job or something like that. So it doesn't actually have to be a job, but it could be a volunteer position. It could be anything that first is social, but that they value, they take ownership in. They know that, all right, I've got to be somewhere at this time and people are counting on me. Okay, so when we say valued in that way, we're talking about that the child values it. Having positive mentors. Again, those mentors can come from a lot of different places. Like I mentioned, supportive extended family, school counselors, and so on. Faith-based or other meaningful community membership, too. All right, now let's talk about 9 ways to promote resiliency. So, building empathy. Like I mentioned, empathy is something that can be taught, and it's something that's helpful for parents to notice whether the child has that skill already. Okay, so help your child develop empathy by teaching him or her how to really consider and visualize the struggles faced by others. One kind of fun way to do this, if your child watches like 30-minute shows, there's a couple skills that you can teach by doing this. But watching some of those, like a sitcom, or it's easier to do in 30-minute shows because they usually have some sort of problem that comes up, right? The main person gets into trouble, or something happens, and so pausing that show right at that struggle, when the struggle happens, and then asking your child, so what do you think this person is feeling? How do you think they're handling this? What do you think their choice was that they made that maybe went the wrong way, or somebody else's choice that affected them? So talking about how one choice that somebody makes affects more than just that one person. So talking about, so that kid, let's see, cheated off of somebody else's test. Okay, so talking about how that affected them, but then also talking about how it affected, the classroom, the teachers, the other students, their friend, their parents. Okay, so understanding how one person's actions really affect somebody else, and then tying that to those feelings. Okay. Identify a go-to person. So I mentioned about having, the supportive person, but then also about seeking help and knowing how to seek help. Make sure your child has a close and supportive adult that he or she feels comfortable confiding in. So you can, when we also talk about safety and danger, usually we talk about, make sure, if you're in trouble at home, you go to this neighbor or you go to this person. So identifying, starting with neighbors, identify which neighbors are safe people, okay? And which family members are go-to people. Asking your child too. So if you had to think of who is a good go-to person, who would you go to for help at school? Who would you go to for help at home? Who would you go to for help at your job? Who would you go to for help at college? And as they're young too, building maybe those connections too with those go-to people, with those supports, okay? Listen, so I mentioned about that open communication. And how important that was to be a listening parent, okay? Ensuring that your child feels like you aren't simply hearing, but are truly tuning into what they say. All right, so guys are ready for it. Putting away the phone, right? Putting it somewhere else so that, you're not modeling that inappropriate behavior of, we're always on the phone. We're, sitting down even, we sit down to dinner together, but we're always looking at a device just like our child is, or telling our child to put down the device when we're holding on to it. Practice, if your child comes to you and says, hey, Mom, Dad, do you have a minute? Or can I show you this? Or do you want to play this game? Practice saying no even practice saying yes even when you want to say no. So you might be right in the middle of doing something, you might be relaxing, you might be doing whatever. Practice going, you know what, I think I've said no the last couple times, I gotta say yes. This is internally. And you go, yes, I absolutely do have time. So that they notice, now this is not every time, you don't have to stop dinner, you don't have to stop your work every single time that your child comes up and asks you for your time, but do it sometimes. Okay, and certainly when there's downtime and everybody's having downtime, you're already available, right? Okay, and how do we show that we're good listeners? We give eye contact, okay? We're sitting still, we're facing them. That's a big one, because we might be like, yeah, I'm listening, okay? I'm over here doing, gotcha, okay. And we do reflective listening. So what does that mean? Instead of the we're asking them questions. We're saying, really? So you fell down at school? You didn't sit with anybody at lunch today? What was that like for you? How did that feel? What is that normal for you? So you're asking questions. You're staying tuned to the information that they're giving you. Okay. It's also helping, as you go along, helping a child know that I might not always say yes, I might not always agree with what you're doing, but I am listening. And how do I listen? How do you know I'm listening? Because I'm repeating back to you what you're saying. I am asking a question about what you're saying. It might not always come out with a yes or an agreement, but I'm listening. I hear what you're saying. And even saying those words, okay? Yeah, I hear you. That was really difficult. You didn't like this. And I hear you. And recognizing, staying in tune with your child to know whether they want to just be heard or whether they want you to fix something, whether they want advice about something, okay? So if your child is coming to you just to vent, make sure you're not trying to fix, okay? If your child is coming to you for fixing, make sure you're not just going, yep, okay, good job, all right? So try to pick up on that. And if you don't know, go ahead and ask. So I've got an idea of how you could fix that or what you could do. Did you want to hear that? All right, so just ask. Or I can just stay quiet while you tell me. Would that probably be what you're looking for today? Do you just want me to listen and maybe give you a hug? And okay, then I'll just be a listener. Okay. Accept children for who they are. Avoid pushing your child in a direction he or she doesn't want to go. Instead, celebrate the person that he or she is. That's a big one. Okay. Sometimes we have those parental scripts of my child is going to be this, my child is going to be this, or because I'm this person, that's who I think they're going to be and that's who I want them to be. And sometimes we're not good at recognizing that that's not who our child is. Okay. So accepting them and understanding what that means in yourself to accept them for who they are. It doesn't mean that you failed in any sort of way, okay? Just because they are not meeting those goals that you thought you wanted them to meet or that you think they should meet. And this doesn't mean that we sit back and we, let our child fail or anything like that. It's understanding who they are and what they want to do and where they want to go. Along with that is identifying their strengths. So find out what your child is really good at and offer encouragement and support. Okay, where are their strengths? What do you notice that they do in their downtime? So I was using my example of my child in their room and their little bits, and that they're going to be an engineer, you know. They like to put things together, and they like to build things, and they like to create things, and they like to discover how things work, okay? I don't know anything about that. That's not where my mind is, okay? But I've identified that that's their strength, and I am constantly trying to foster that. Okay, and have him tell me too, like, teach me about that. You know that I don't know anything about this, but you teach me. Okay, that models that I'm interested, I'm listening, and that they then have that skill of empowerment. Okay, she wants to know about this. This is a skill set that I have that she doesn't have. Okay. And that's going to build not only strength, but self-esteem and self-identity too. Okay. Next one is do-overs. So make sure your child knows that mistakes along the way are okay, and present them as learning experiences and areas where he or she can try to do better next time. So some people come to me with this idea that they've grown up with, that you can't make mistakes, and that mistakes are just the end, and they're awful, and they're, catastrophic, okay? Teaching, you know what, we made a mistake, but what would happen if we just got to have a do-over, okay? Can teach this in a couple ways. If there's something that you can't really do over, you can say, well, what would that have been like to do it over? Okay, but if it's something at home or something at school, let's say they created something, I'm thinking baking, okay? So you allowed them to cook, and here we go, we burned the dinner again, right? Or, they cooked a disaster of a meal. All right, well, let's have a do-over. This one doesn't even count. And these are kind of the words that you're presenting to them and letting them know it's okay. We can just do it again. This doesn't have to impact your whole day or impact, oh, now I can't cook. Do you have a child that does something one time and they're like, oh, I'm not good at it? I can't do it? Yeah, okay. They don't know, right? They don't know. They've done it one time. We can do it again. Things are learned, okay, by practice. Nice thing to teach, it's the origin of chocolate chip cookies. So go home and ask your child if they know how chocolate chip cookies came about. Chocolate chip cookies were a mistake. Somebody was trying to make, I think it was like a chocolate cookie or a chocolate chunk or something like that, and they messed it up. Well, what a wonderful mistake, right? That's, I find, an eye-opener for a lot of kids, Really, that was a mistake, and a mistake can be something that's wonderful and that can open up the door to amazing creations, okay? So the way we learn, too, is by making mistakes, all right? We don't know how to do something better if we don't start it and try and make a mistake. I don't even usually like to use that word mistake because it does have that negative connotation to it, okay? So no, you tried something, didn't work out quite the way that you thought it would. Well, let's try it again. Let's have a do-over. Let's do something different, okay? It's not a mistake. Develop responsibility. Give your child opportunities for developing mastery and responsibility. This will encourage self-esteem and self-efficacy. So lots and lots of different ways that you can develop responsibility. Starting from the home itself. So giving them a job. What kinds of jobs? Raise your hand if you ever gave like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old a job. Okay, or raise your hand if you think that's not possible. The jobs I'm talking about, so 2, 3-year-old can pick up things and they can throw things away. So you're teaching them the responsibility of you blow your nose, or you use a tissue, you use paper towel, whatever, you can throw things away. You can even give them something here, can you go throw this away? That's responsibility, okay? Emptying a dishwasher, I'm moving up from a 2-year-old, I wouldn't suggest that unless it's something plastic, but emptying a dishwasher, loading a dishwasher, setting a table, sweeping a floor. These are all things that should start pretty early on. If you haven't started them yet, okay, all right, we're starting a little late, right? But start it now, okay? Household chores are one of the easiest ways to develop that responsibility. And make sure they know, so this is your job. Create a plan too. When are you going to do it? All right, every day, is this an everyday job? Is this a weekly job? When you give that job, does it have to be done immediately? Like dinner, they have to clear the table. Does that have to be done right away? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, give some guidelines. Emptying the dishwasher by the end of the day, okay? Give a guideline, all right? And then also give some feedback, some praise. Hey, you remembered that without me telling you. That's our goal. That was awesome. Good job. Okay. You didn't quite remember it today without me telling you, but I'm going to close my eyes and maybe you're going to do it now, and that's kind of that do-over thing, right? I didn't see it yet. I didn't look yet. Maybe it'll be done right now. Humor. Okay. Putting all of those things together. And responsibility later on with the job, all of those skills that they've built up at home will move into having that independent job and being able to be on time and, it be expected to meet all of their expectations. Offer meaningful participation. Offer your child opportunities to engage in activities he or she really cares about. You've already heard that a couple times about engaging them in things that they like and creating those opportunities. And then teaching problem solving. So showing your child ways to deal with problems and providing both role modeling and encouragement. When I mentioned about the watching the sitcoms, okay, this is another tool that you can use for problem solving. So again, you watch the first 10 minutes or so of that sitcom, the problem comes up, and you stop the show and you say, all right, so what's the problem? Because step one of problem solving is identifying what the problem is. So many times when I have children in my session and I ask them, well, what happened today? What was the problem? They mention like step 4 of the problem. It's not where the problem started. So teaching and identifying where a problem starts. So again, using that kind of sitcom situation, you can rewind and go back and go, well, actually, don't you think it kind of started back here when this person said this to the other person, this person decided not to tell the whole story or the whole truth, or that's where that started. So what would have happened, you would say, if they had told the truth, or if they had said no, or whatever the case may be? How would that have changed the story? Okay, and you notice I'm always talking with the child like the questions. So you want to get them giving you the answers, not so much that you're telling them, well, this is where the problem started, this is what would have happened. Then you're just showing them that you have that problem-solving skill. So you want to elicit that from them, okay? Well, let's see. How would you go about that? What would change if you were in that situation? What do you think? Also, this is a good one, predicting what might happen. So what do you think that main character is going to do later on? Okay. All right. So I am going to pause right there, and I want to hear some questions that you guys might have for me, because I have been talking for a long time. Yes, thank you. Go right ahead. So let me start back from the. Okay. It was multi-part. Can you say it again? So one of the questions was, what would you have? Go ahead and say it. Do it.
Like if I had a kid that tried to do affirmations, but then they flip it into negative.
So what to do if you have a child that you try to do affirmations or positive self-talk and they flip it to the negative? Or you were saying too, if you're watching that show and they say, well, that's not real, that wouldn't happen. Okay, so I was going to start with that one first. Those situations, first of all, those situations usually are taken from almost real life situations. But if that's not a good enough answer, you say, well, all right, well, let's make it something that's kind of real life, because if it's not exactly, it's going to be really close. Okay. Of course, my mind goes to like 80s and 90s sitcoms, which were often taken from real life. You know, something kind of typically normal happened. Okay, but give me an example, and I'll tell you how you could change that.
Well, it's hard because like my son's 5, so like he finds sitcoms boring. So like we try to do regular like cartoon type things that are like in real situations, but he's like, well, this is a cartoon, it's not real.
Okay, but go into the situation then. So he's just looking at then, I think that, well, these are characters and these are cartoons. So go into the situation. Yeah, but this kid or this, thing that's not a kid, not a real kid or whatever. So somebody took something of theirs. So that's how you'd say it. So he's being very black and white, and he's focusing on, that, yeah, this is a cartoon character, this isn't real, but the situation is real. Well, that character took this character's ball, okay? So I think you're going to find there is a real life situation in each one of those scenarios. So go, well, all right, we're going to pretend that the character, isn't that. That character is you. And you, we're playing with this other character, that's going to be your brother. And he took something of yours. So kind of put it into real life. So take the situation and put it in there. And then give me an example of how he takes the positive affirmation and changes it. What might he say? Okay, all right. The problem there I would see is that you're telling him that he's going to have a good day. Okay, so I would massage that a little bit. I might say, what kind of day are you going to have today? What kind of day do you want to have? Because that might be him being worried about, I'm going to have a boring day. And that's why he's telling me that. Okay, and just by countering it isn't really effective with him. So I would say, what kind of day do you want to have? Are you worried you're going to have the other kind of day? Okay. What's one thing, because he's only 5, what's one thing that you can do that'll help it not be a boring day? I'd also, though, what's one thing you can do that's going to make a really boring day? Okay, so that, what am I doing there? He hears, he knows that you're listening to him. Okay, not just arguing, not countering, but you're listening. You're listening Because he's saying he's going to have a boring day. I hear you saying that you're going to have a boring day. What's one thing that'll make it really, really boring? I'd probably start with that too. So you're engaging with him where he's at. He's going to have a boring day. All right. Tell me 2 things that's going to make it like really, 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 really boring. Yeah? Okay. So, but what if, well, would it still be boring if, you know, give me something that he might say that makes his day boring. Let's practice this. Has to do. Ah, okay. Do they have recess? Yeah, okay. Wow, that's awful. Your teacher keeps you inside for recess? You don't ever get to play at recess. I'm gonna have to talk to that teacher because I bet that would make a very, very boring day. No, well, Mom, no, we do get to have recess. Ooh, that's gonna be one thing that might not be boring. I hope you enjoy that. Okay, do you see there? So you're getting in with them. This is called empathy and invitation, okay? So empathy first. Oh, that's with the, well, name something that's gonna make it really, 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 really boring, okay? Wow, that does sound really boring. And then invitation is going into, well, you know, is there one little itty bitty tiny part of your day that might not be quite so boring, okay? Does that help a little bit? Okay. Oh, okay. An hour tonight? No. Another question. I thought I saw a hand up over here. Is that, no? Other questions about anything else? Because we're going to move into the question and answer section. Go ahead. So the question is, and it's a problem that I'd imagine most people with teenagers and middle schoolers and, oh my goodness, sometimes elementary school kids are having. Their devices that all of them have, you know, whether it's a phone or a tablet or a computer or a video game, whatever, is often seems to be more engaging than a parent and whatever a parent can offer. So how do we engage when they already have something that is way more exciting than what we can offer? Does that sound right? Yeah. So a couple things I'm going to suggest. So one is the limiting. Okay. Tougher when you already have a 13 or 15-year-old, and if there's been no limits, but you know, making sure that you know they do have some no screen time. Okay, so building that in. Number 2 is making sure that there are other activities that either they've been interested in before or that you can get them interested in now, so that they have other activities. So I know kids that, you know, once you get them off the screen, they're like, oh yeah, I used to like to draw. I used to like to create things. I used to like to work out. I used to like to whatever. And putting that distance between the screen and themselves helps them move back into those activities. Those activities still have a draw. They still have an internal or innate power to engage. It's just not as instantaneous as the screen is. So as a parent, you have to create some of that distance. You have to create those boundaries first to allow them to, separate and then re-engage. Third thing is, during their time on their screen, you're going to become interested in what they're doing. So, hey, what game are you playing? Tell me about your game. Can I play it too? What does that guy do? Why is that guy doing that thing? What on earth? I don't get it. Explain this to me. So it's one of the ways that, I connect in a session with clients that only have that one interest, which is video games or something on the screen. Show me, tell me, demonstrate it to me. I still don't get it. Show it to me again. Can I play too? Why does this person move this way? So that's engaging, that's showing interest too. And it gives you sometimes just that starting point that you might need to connect, okay? Building, like I said, those no screen times too. Mealtime is one of the easiest times to do that. And then during those times, asking them kind of what else they're interested in. So tell me about what's going on with you. Having them lead that conversation and having them, decide what we're going to be talking about too. Sometimes when we're so wanting to engage and wanting them to put their screen down, we're like, let's play a game, let's build a puzzle, and that might not be what they're interested in, right? But we're so excited or desperate to make that engagement, we're throwing things at them that they're just not going to connect with, okay? So does that help? Some good. Okay. Very good. And that's tough. It's very tough. I mean, I think everybody here has a device, right? And some of us love it so much, and we need to always be looking at something or doing something, and it's, it has created kids, let's be honest, it's created kids and adults that need instantaneous engagement, excitement. Have you, those of you that are my age or older, are you ever horrified by how quick they can scroll and receive information and go through it? It's kind of terrifying being a psychologist and seeing that, because the brain is not taking all of that in. The brain, though, then also is becoming used to things moving that fast. And it's a little scary. Not to go full on scared, but it's a little scary. So super important to have those no screen times. We need times for our brain to slow down, okay? Certainly encouraging game playing, certain types of game playing. I'm a huge fan of having like a family game night and doing, oh my goodness, you can do any sort of games, board games, puzzles if that's kind of your thing, but I'm thinking, especially for teenagers, something more active, okay? And just make it part of your family's routine, okay? Good question. Thank you. Let's keep going. What else? Yes? So the question is, how do you get somebody out of that negative cycle of putting themselves down? Okay. First thing that I would say is, to step out of that cycle is to say, well, let's not talk about what you're not good at. Let's not talk about that thing. Let's figure out what you are good at. What are the things that you are good at? So sometimes we get stuck in the, they're getting stuck in the negative talk cycle, but we're getting stuck in the, yes, you are good at it, yes, you are, and we're doing some of that exploring for them of what they're good at. And instead, all right, so I hear that you're not good at, give me an example. What are they not good at? Oh, yeah, okay. So I hear you're not good at reading, you're not good at, let's throw in another one, math too, okay. So what are you good at? And after we step into that, let's also step then into, what do you mean by good at? So you need to figure out where their expectations are. What does good mean? Everybody here has a different definition of what good might mean. Okay, what is good at reading? And how old is your kid? 11, okay. So, if they're going on the guidelines of what school might say you're good at, there's a whole spectrum of where we could be in reading in those skills. So helping them understand it's not just this narrow, benchmark right here. And everybody learns at a different pace too. So that's even breaking that kind of goal down into small bits. All right, so this is where you are right now. What would happen if you took this small step and, learned to read this book, not at the same pace as everybody else. Let's forget about if somebody else is putting those guidelines in there. Let's go at your own pace, okay? And what strengths do you have that might help you be good or better at reading, okay? So that's a beautiful example of reframing. So yes, and excuse me, and finding the skill set that she actually has. So yeah, I'm not good at reading, but like you said, but you're good at humility. You're good at realizing where you are or putting you spoke more eloquently about it than I do, but turning that negative into discovering where your skill set is and how to build from that skill set. Exactly. And not comparing yourself on your journey, whether it's your reading journey, your academic journey, your life journey, not comparing yourself to other people, but looking at where you're at and where you want to go and the pace that is comfortable for you, and not looking always too far ahead, like, well, I'm never is usually way over there. I'm never going to be able to do that. Let me mention to you something called a growth mindset. Okay, so some of you have probably heard of a growth mindset. That's turning those things into like, okay, well, I'm not good at reading. I'm not good at reading yet. Okay, your story is not done. All right, your ability to learn, change, grow is not remotely done. We continue to grow and learn throughout. So you might not be able to do this right now, but we change that to you're not able to do that yet. Which instills hope, right? Instills this trajectory of, I'm going to be able to get there. All right, I just need to back up and know the steps to get there or to change the direction. I've been going at it with, I can't do this, I can't do this. Let me change and go a different direction. Thank you for that comment and that question. Yes, go ahead.
I have sort of the opposite, but not to the extreme of the arrogance. The accepting the child for who they are. That versus they have potential, but they maybe are just sort of like really laid back. There's an urgency, like, hey, this is okay. How do you reconcile that?
It's a little different with the college students.
Well, this is it.
Okay. I was going to say how you would intervene there or deal with that or with the younger one. I still would say this is more about a parent kind of getting back to where that kid is. Okay? Being there and sitting there with them where they are. And as you walk along with where they are, you think about if you're holding somebody's hand and you're walking along and you're increasing your steps and going a little bit faster, they're going to go a little bit faster as opposed to if you're way ahead and you keep on going, what are they going to do? They're going to go slower and slower in the other direction. Okay, so as you come back to where they are, you're not saying, oh yeah, that's fine, everything's cool, we don't have an emergency, but you are going alongside them and maybe introducing some of those steps to go a little faster. Does that analogy kind of make, yeah. So we are really just going on our own path if we're like, way over here showing them how fast they should be going and the direction they should be going in. But if we come alongside them, understand maybe their desire to just kind of sit back. It's kind of reminding me of what this gentleman said about, well, looking at that skill set. So maybe they're seeing that there isn't a need for urgency for some reason. What is their reason? What, and having that attitude of it will be okay, not a bad skill. Right? Yeah. Not a bad skill. And maybe they have an idea that their life needs to go here, where we're like, it should be going this direction. But understand that, come alongside that, and understand that. Okay? That is a little bit of a temperament difference too, of that laid back, lack of urgency, not really lack of drive. Sorry. Yeah, right, exactly. So when you come alongside, you kind of look and see what that's like to be that that type B personality, to see, because there's not a right or wrong there, right? You got to tell yourself it's kind of okay to step back and to chill and to not have that sense of urgency always. Okay? Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback off of that question, I guess, with another question. So letting them be who they are, let them solve their own problems. Where is that balance between letting them kind of learn, like, especially on like friend groups, like they get into a friend group and maybe it's they're not a positive influence on them, where you want to let them choose what they want to let them learn and stuff. But and I know I had this in my school too. I got
So the question is, where is that balance in, I guess with the example of a friend group, if you see them with a friend group that's not good for them, and balancing that with telling them that that's not a good friend group, and excuse me. And balance is the right word there, okay? It's about letting your child kind of think about this is a terrible analogy, but a leash, okay? So you're letting them go out, and then when they come back to you, you're there, okay, to give them, think about it, feedback, all right? So it's not lecture, it's not telling them this is bad, it's feedback. So you're hanging out with this new group. What are they like? What do they do? Well, that's interesting. Does that align with, what you really like to do? Okay, you're changing. Okay, cool. All right. Well, tell me about that. Tell me how that works. Okay, they come back again. What'd you guys do? Oh, how did it go? Oh, really? Didn't see that coming. All right, but what do you learn from that? Have you, what do you think will happen if you continue that direction? Don't use those words, but you're getting the information, you're sitting with them, you're interested in the choices that they're making, you're asking about the changes. So if it's a new friend group, you're asking about, you've decided to change from, your old friends, tell me about this new group and what they're doing for you that the other group isn't, or what's changing in you that's making you make that change. And then, offering that gentle guidance. Okay, so you're sitting, you're listening, but you're offering gentle guidance. What does that look like? I'm thinking, gosh, the last 2 times that you went out with them, this bad thing happened. Or you came home crying. Or, whatever it might be. How do you see that going? What do you think is going to happen the next time that you go out? And please make sure you're not saying that like, what do you think is going to happen next time you go out? That's judgment, okay? Never going to get a good response there because they're going to go out back out and do more. But no, really, do you think something different is going to happen? Or are you going to do something different in that case? Or do you just kind of want the same thing to happen? So you're showing them what you see the future might be if they make that choice. Okay? And then here's the hard part. They get to go out and make that choice. Okay? But you've given them the tools, you've given them the foundation, you've given them the ability to look at what might happen and how to make a better choice. Okay? And then you've given them a foundation of open communication so that when they stumble, they come back and they go, Mom, that didn't go so well. Or, yeah, I got in trouble again, but, whatever it might be. Okay, I'm here, I'm listening, depending on the relationship you have with them, you say, well, yeah, I think I want to see that coming, but all right, but, it was important for you to figure that out. Okay, that's empowering skill to have autonomy, to see the possible consequences and make your own choice. And again, not standing in judgment, but saying, well, I know you thought that it wouldn't happen the same way, and I was right there with you. I was hoping that it wouldn't either, but it did. Yeah, that sucks, or that's rough, or and you're sitting there with it and presenting the opportunity for them to make a different choice the next time. Does that make sense? Yeah. Other questions? Yes?
So I know this is all about ways to promote resiliency in our kids, and all the things that you're saying are great, but as a parent, I'm exhausted. I work in 2 jobs. I have all sorts of my own shit to be dealing with. And I want to do those things, but I don't have the time to do all the time. How do you balance
Everybody hear the question? Yeah, okay. Working backwards. So remember the part about supportive role models and supports from extended family and outside supports. So one of the reasons that that is so helpful is because we're busy, we're tired. We've got things that we're doing. We have our own lives to, be resilient ourselves, right? So having those other supports can help take some of that off of our own plate. So remembering that we don't have to do it all, okay? And even though this sounds extensive, right? Diana just gave us 1 billion things for us to do. Oh my goodness, how can we do all that? This is framework. This is things that you're not going to do all day, every day in its entirety, okay? So find those little moments to do one of these things. So you go home tonight and you go, all right, let me pick one. Oh, that's a good place to start. Let me pick one. I'm going to practice listening. I'm going to do that right when I get home instead of, I'll use my example, instead of, oh, I like to arrange my stuff. I like to put all my stuff down. I like to take my shoes off. I like to put on my comfy clothes. I like to do all those things before I want to engage with anybody. Tonight, I'm going to just dump my stuff, and I'm going to go find my kid and go, how are you? And, he might be like, yeah, I'm good. Look back at his phone. Cool. All right. But what did I just do? I came and I engaged with him first, okay? And I might not just let him leave it at good. I might say, all right, we'll talk again in like 1 minute after I get my stuff off. You think about what, anything else you wanted to tell me, okay? Little spots of time, again, we break it into small moments, okay? Don't think that this is hours and hours that you have to carve out. And I mentioned before, these are concepts to have and take in your mind, and then actions to put forward with your kids, okay? But this is about adjusting how you approach them, how you think, okay? As well as the things to actively do with them. So yeah, your job then, after hearing this, is to go, all right, this isn't overwhelming. This is framework. Let me find one thing to do tonight, and then maybe one thing to do tomorrow, or the same thing. Let me practice one skill with my kid for the next week, and then I'll move on to the next one. Does that feel, that feels a little better, right? Yeah, go ahead. I love that. That's like giving yourself a do-over. When that impulsive, bad parent comes flying out of your mouth, you're like, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. That was tired mom talking. That was, oh my gosh, I'm all about, my day talking. No, wait, can mom have a do-over? Ooh, I love that. Asking kind of with permission. This is great modeling. Okay, making sure that the kid knows that you are the authority in the family, but you're also a human being, so you're going to make mistakes. she might discover that, you know, she can only play for 10 minutes at a time and then needs to take a break. Okay? She might discover that she maybe practices when she's hungry or tired, or otherwise irritable. That would be a combination. Okay? So she might recognize, I need to do some things first before I practice. I need to make sure I eat. I need to make sure that I'm in a quiet space or whatever, and that I take breaks. Okay? Remember at the beginning I was talking about with the positive parenting, looking at why somebody reacts. Okay? It's great when kids and teens can do that themselves. Why did I freak out? Why did I yell? Why did I not perform the way I wanted to? Okay? Let's go back to the why and discover that. Then we can address how to handle it. Does that help? Other questions? So I mentioned about, and I'm sure you're going to say this too, about the second series. So this is the series for 3, and kind of a different direction for next time, a little bit more hands-on, a little bit including your kids and teens if you'd like to. I'm teaching you guys to come by yourselves or bring them too. And what is the title? What do we have for the title for the second one? Oh, that was stress. Yes, that's what it was. So, stress reducers, okay? Identifying how to identify stress, maybe some signs and symptoms that you need to do something, to change where you're at right now, and then coping strategies, a wellness piece too, improving different areas of wellness and how that affects stress. Any questions about that? Any questions about? Yes. Okay. That's a great question. So it's still going to be this type of format, probably not the seating arrangement like this, but this type of format, meaning I'm still going to be seating and teaching. So if they're really little, but if they're with them, to manage them. That's a great question. I guess probably I can mention I mean, a lot of the relaxation techniques and those kind of coping strategies, a little one can do, a 5-year-old can do. I'm worried about the other parts. Because we like to talk a lot. So, I would say the garden was first enough. If I get along with them, I'll try to, more active.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Diana. That was amazing information. I know it helped with my understanding and knowledge and new ideas, so hope it was helpful for you. Yes, our next one will be on February 1st, same time. We may have a different location depending on what the needs are with the format of the next workshop. So just keep your eyes open for that e-blast that comes out, or if you hear it from your teachers or just from around the community. We do ask that you please fill out the survey that you received when you walked in. It does help us to get some feedback from you as attendants. And then we, of course, have our wonderful basket we have to give away tonight. There are some great things in there. There's a couple books, some family journals, some fun family games, and conversation cards, and just different things to help, again, build resiliency in your home. And so the winner of that is Diane Katakowski. Are you still here, Diane? Oh, she did. Oh, I'll have to. What was that? I was going to respin it. She already left? Oh. Yeah, sorry, you have to be present to win, right, Jamie? Yeah, so I'm going to respin it. Hold on. All right, looks like it's Lauren Smith. Are you still here, Lauren? All right, you're the winner. Congratulations. All right, again, thank you so much for attending tonight. If you have any questions for Diana, she'll be up here, or for one of us from Clarkston Youth Assistance. Like I said, we do offer a lot to the community. We are also a volunteer-driven organization as well, so if you're ever looking for more involvement in the community or ways to get involved, we do have volunteer opportunities as well. So again, thank you, and have a great night and a great holiday.